Hey guys, Spirit of the Lie here. Now, I feel I'm on the record as saying as far back as March that despite a rocky start to the year, I really believed Age of Empires 4 could have a second half of the year revival if they 1. Had a massive Steam sale, and 2. Announced new civilizations. It seems that moment has arrived, as both of those things are happening, as well as some free access to the game for the next week, with the new civilizations also going to be completely free as well. Anyone can download the game and play it as much as they want until next Monday. If you haven't played the game at all, or were turned off by either the cost or the initial state of the game on release, it just got a lot more attractive. And I say that as a primarily Age of Empires 2 YouTuber, and not someone who has an incentive to hype up AoE4. Now, I personally haven't been playing a lot of Age of Empires 4 recently, but as I talked about in a video last month, there's been a pretty steady diet of balance changes and updates to address the notable lack of features it had at release last year. They also announced and gave details about 2 upcoming civilizations, which, as I said, are going to be completely free for anyone owning the game and are coming on October 25th, the 1-year anniversary of AoE4's release. The first of the new civilizations is going to be the Malians. They're described as being built around a strong economy, especially gold, being able to build pit mines on gold to generate passive income and a unique cattle food source, though it isn't clear on what exactly makes it unique. We do get a look at one point in the trailer showing both the regular sheep herding ability of the scout and cattle in the same location. The passive resource generation of mines to free up villagers sounds very strong on paper, though it's pretty easy to adjust the gold trickle as needed for game balance. On the military side, it sounds like their units are going to lack some armor and are incentivized to hit and run or ambush enemy armies instead of standing and fighting. So far, they've even revealed 4 of their unique units. The first is a Sapahi warrior, which is an infantry unit that almost sounds like it fills a light cavalry role of ambushing and escaping quickly. The second is the javelin thrower, which we get a good look at in the new trailer. It replaces the crossbowman, though instead of countering armored units, it's specialized against ranged units. In the trailer, we get a pretty good look at them attacking some archers and crossbows on a wall. Their third revealed unit is the Donso, which is both an anti-cavalry unit up close, but also a ranged unit when not directly engaged. The description says the unit automatically switches between the two, though I didn't catch an example of that in the trailer, and in one shot it seems an enemy should be close enough and yet they're not using the ability, maybe because they're concealed in a forest. Other information on the official website suggests the Donso is a Dark Age unit, giving them something anti-cavalry and ranged in the First Age, which is notable and sounds very aggressive, especially in addition to passive gold generation with their pit mines. It's not clear exactly how expensive those are, but we're led to believe it's a net positive even in the early game, so they can't be that large of an investment. In the feudal age, Malians also have another unique building called the Toll Outpost that generates extra gold from passing caravans. Obviously, gold is a major theme for their economy early on, and this is also when they get access to their female warrior raiding units. Moving up to Castle Age, one of their landmarks that we're told about is the Gold Barracks, which, based on the name and description for creating units en masse, might be a mercenary sort of idea, costing gold to produce batches of units, though that is just speculation. We also see they have a unique tech for poisoned arrows, letting their archers deal damage over time, which you may be familiar with from Age of Empires 3. And finally, in the Imperial Age, we learn about another landmark giving extra buffs to economy, siege, and military production, so their late game sounds quite interesting as well. They mention their unique gunpowder unit, the Musafati Gunner, is also able to make use of stealth, this time temporarily disappearing even when not in a stealth forest. That might end up looking a little silly if they're able to just throw on invisibility cloaks mid-combat against a group of knights, so we'll have to see how that ends up being implemented. Ideally, if an enemy unit is up right beside them, it should still be able to see them. Overall though, Malians seem pretty unique between their gold generating buildings, emphasis on quick light units, and stealth abilities. What I'm most curious about though is the Donso's passive melee and range switching though, as that's something we haven't seen units do automatically in the franchise before. The other new planned civilization is the Ottomans. They seem to be built around a couple of unique mechanics. The first is a vizier system and imperial court. We don't get too much information about how this works, but it seems to give choice and access to unique technologies and let you decide what you want to specialize in. The other more significant and unique focus for the civilization is their military school, which you can build in Dark Age. This sounds like a pretty insane building that can actually produce units for free at a slow rate, reminiscent of the Delhi's free research. Interestingly, you can even pick a focus on barracks, archery range, or stable units, though it's not clear if you can specify you want a spearman or man-at-arms, or if it just gives you a random barracks unit, for example. Presumably, you get to pick the unit, and just the more expensive it is, the longer it takes. In shots elsewhere, we can see they also have a traditional barracks, archer ranges, etc., which implies to me you could either play them standard or make your military school and focus on your economy as you build an army for free, or presumably just use the extra units to supplement your rush. In the Second Age or Feudal Age, you have some economic landmark choices and get access to 2 unique units. The first is a Sapahi, which is a light raiding cavalry unit with a special ability to briefly increase its attack, though with the trade-off of also taking more damage. Intuitively, I think this is probably going to be used when raiding to pick off villagers quickly, but not in sustained combat, depending on what you're up against. Their other Feudal Age unique unit is a support unit that plays drums to give a buff to all units around it. Adding an element of choice, you get to decide if you want the buff to be for attack rate, melee armor, or ranged armor, again depending on what you're up against. Already, I'm getting the impression that Ottomans are going to be quite a micro-intensive civilization to play. In the Third Age, one of your landmarks allows for siege weapon production, and this is also when the Imperial Council system and viziers start to come into play. This is also when you get unique access to the Janissary as an alternative to the hand cannoneer. Notably, for most civilizations, the hand cannoneer is an Imperial Age unit, not a Castle Age one, so that's an interesting change and sounds quite powerful. Finally, in the Imperial Age, you of course get access to the Great Bombard, which is suggested to be the most dominant siege weapon across all civilizations, with massive attack and splash damage. The trade-off naturally is that you have to defend it from being attacked in melee, and it also sounds like it's going to be very expensive. My initial impression is it sounds like Ottomans are going to be incredibly strong, with free early units, a great early raiding unit, early access to gunpowder with the maximum highest ceiling, and either increased unit speed or faster traders, on top of a bunch of unique techs with a vizier system, which we don't have a ton of details about yet. I noticed there's also a fair amount of emphasis in the trailer on water, and my understanding from interviews is that was always seen as a last-minute addition to the game. It's possible they have some plans to revamp water in some way and are holding something back at the moment. They also didn't mention anything about the new civilization's water units, for example, despite showing quite a few things in the trailer. Now, with all that said, I initially had to wonder why these particular civilizations were chosen. There are of course other civilizations I think would have been bigger fan favorites from Age of Empires 2, and it's interesting that China already has to share the gunpowder civ identity with the Ottomans, though at the same time I personally suspect they're saving Byzantines and other very popular civs for paid DLC down the road. Remember, these two civilizations are free, and all of this together feels a bit like they're pushing to really make Age of Empires 4 at its 1-year anniversary feel like a complete game, which has long been a criticism. It's not a big secret that the release was a little rough last year outside of the campaigns, and didn't manage to hold on to as many players as I'm sure they'd hoped for, especially given the massive hype and number of eyes on the game. The strategy at the moment seems to be to focus on building the player base first and foremost, and then find ways to monetize the game later. In my opinion, that is absolutely the right call here, given where it was trending, and like I said, also speaks to their confidence that the game is in a much better state now, to the point it might win some fans back. I think seeing that changing strategy where player number building is going to be the focus actually gives a lot of reason for optimism. I'm very curious to see what the wider reaction to all of this is going to be for people outside of the AoE4 community, and if it's enough to bring people back to the game, or if that ship has sailed, so to speak, and if too many people have already moved on based on early impressions. I'm certainly going to be trying out the new civilizations, and I have to say both civs announced seem to be offering very unique playstyles. Let me know what you guys think, especially if you're an AoE2 player. Is this enough to get you interested in AoE4 again? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.